Good morning and welcome to another edition of PharSide Pholios. We are kicking off our month-long celebration of National Reading Month with a special series of author interviews along with all of our daily posts that you'll see on our social media pages. So today's special guest is James Quinlan Meservy. Loves literature. His favorite genre to read is classic literature, like Charles Dickens is his all-time favorite. He lives in Southeast Idaho with his wife and children and spent his childhood moving all across northern Utah. He considers his hometown to be Minden, Utah, a small community near Logan, Utah, in the Catchy Valley. And so he's written a number of great works. So I hope you replay or are able to jot these down. He has the Rise Saga, the Realm of Light series that includes the United, the Realm of Light Book 1, which we're talking about today, Denizens Among Us, the Realm of Light Book 2, a prequel novel, Perfectly Evil, the Realm of Light Book 3, and Shades of Mortality, the Realm of Light Book 4. And then he's got the Realm of the Light stories, the Viscount of Sternborg, a Realm of Light novella, and Within the Shadows, a Rise Saga anthology volume 1. So that sounds like there's more to come with that. And then he's got the short stories like Ashes of Tragedy, a Realm of Light short stories, Excalibur, a Realm of Light short story, which was originally published in Glimpses of Time and Magic anthology, which is awesome. The First Denizen War, I Am a Master Serve, Realm of Zestovia short story that was included within the Shadows. So Within the Shadows. So he's got a number of great works out there in the world, from fantasy to sci-fi to all the things, not just YA but also children's fiction like the Sycar series, and general fiction like The Cross of Roses, standalone short stories, Becoming Captain to Ride, Definition of Evil, Jackalopes, The Real Story, an undiscovered title, and he also writes poetry. All right, he's also written some works of poetry. This is James Quinlan Meservy, fantasy author extraordinaire, creator of creatures, embellisher of events, and firebrand, and with stories that kindle the imagination. Welcome to the far side, James Meservy. Welcome.
Thank you. So I've got a couple of different things going on my end. For some reason, no matter which browser I'm using, I'm getting a really bad time log. Time lag, and then I'm still dealing with a post-concussive syndrome and the brain fog, needing to take breaths, and I'm still recovering from my most recent hit to the head.
Well, we totally got you, and we thank you for just taking the time to spend with us this morning. No rush. This is easy going, so it's gonna flow, and if there's a slight delay, it's okay. It's okay. We'll work through it. We'll work through it together. So we're just excited to have you here with us on the far side this morning. So we're talking about today the first book in the in the series, the Realm of Light series, which is the United the Realm of Life book series, book one. And so, one of the unique things you did from the beginning is to provide your reader with characters and key terms. Why was that important for you to do? And do you find it a common practice in urban fantasy?
That wasn't my decision. Um, in the original version of the United, and then in the publishing version of the United, the character in terms the is in the appendix at the end of the book. But when I shifted to Cosby Media Productions, Braxton Cosby, and the editorial staff over there decided they wanted to move the character in terms to the start of the book and have it be at the end of the book. And I didn't see any reason why not to. As far as everybody else, mine's the only one that I know of where put the character in terms in front. Not saying that other people haven't done it. It's just it was new to me when they said anybody else's works.
Okay. So, I mean, one of the things you do, you right off the bat, you introduce readers to JC and Old Man Jones at the beginning. So, how did this young kid come to have a relationship with an older man who probably could have been the age of his grandfather? And, does that relationship kind of play a role in some of, JC's decisions and actions later on in the story?
So, a lot of the world building in the United is based on what I saw in the community where I grew up in. Being an elderly gentleman stuck to a wheelchair, family, friends, neighborhood, community, kind of help him take care of his yard, like what I saw growing up. And my grandfather was a secondary grandfather to a lot of the same kids my same age, growing up, and so a lot of Old Man Jones is in my grandpa. Was inspired by grandpa, and um, the decisions that not just JC, but a lot of members of his family that help out Old Man Jones, um, does influence are influenced by Jones's friendship, by his knowledge, by and the relationship they had together.
So as we go on, there are a couple of interesting incidents that kind of take place right there at the beginning. JC's preparing to hang out, meet his friends at a campsite. Um, he's got the smell of frying fish, but with no evidence of preparation process, going into the old man's house. And then when he gets to the campsite, he sees none of his friends, but sees this sketch of the Hoboden legend of the Manodon that he had done. And he raises the question, how did he find me? So, who is the he, and what's got JC on the run?
So, I wrote down these answers, went through everything. Wouldn't have as bad a time talking, and it didn't work. I'm still a ball. I'm still a ball nerves, and I'm still having time expressing myself. But
That's
it's all.
okay. Take your
I do
time.
appreciate having the questions beforehand, so at least I know what's coming. Um, but after him, that that inspired the sketch is actually a creature of rye that it's Jacob Hunter, the Lord Iroquois, creature of rye of the Wolf Clan, whose basic sole purpose is to hunt down JC's family and kill them all. And JC learned about these things from combination of dreams that he had, and then other angels that have been introduced to his life that we don't know about yet at the very beginning of at the start of the prologue.
So, without giving the story away, because this is National Reading Month, so we want everyone who is watching live, as well as those who will catch the replay, to pick up this book, The United, the Realm of Life, book series 1, because you want to start off with book 1 and follow the whole series, especially if you're a lover of fantasy genre like I am. So, without kind of giving the story away, can you provide our viewers and those who will catch by replay kind of the premise of this first book, The United?
So the United follows Tyler James Parkinson and his encounter with Lord Iroquois, and how those encounters changed his life and changed the life of friends. Um, following through more during United, you're very briefly introduced to Arcturus Hunter and Amaranth Hunter. Denizens Among Us and Perfectly Evil are their life stories, and um, book 4, Shades of Mortality, the is about 15 years after the events of the United, and um, TJ's daughter Heather Ann and um, her own adventures or misadventures with mythological creatures as she goes through her life.
So, what brought you kind of into writing specifically, the fantasy genre?
Well, it all starts with a 5th grade reading assignment. We were asked to write a Halloween theme story, and I came up with this idea about a wolf that stole the souls of children. And as I wrote the assignment, I handed it in. My 5th grade teacher came up to me after class and said, "Hey, with a little bit of work, we can be published in a magazine with other 5th graders across the nation." And I looked at her and said, "No, I don't want to be I don't want to be a published author. I have no interest in doing that." And then I kind of forgot about it, went back to watching movies, playing video games, and then about 7th grade, I was given another Halloween creative writing assignment, and part 2 came about, which is the original basis for Year the Second. And the original thoughts for Year the Third came about on a 10th grade writing assignment. And I just kind of brushed off all sorts of writing as just being something you do for school, and ended up using the Darkfang stories, the short stories that I wrote for school, as campfire stories. They're with my friends at scout camps, and later in life, the idea of TJ's story and all of the different things that went along with the Darkfang short story would not leave me alone. So I taught myself how to write a fantasy, how to write fantasy novel. Read a lot of books about how to write, period, and started my first draft and threw that away, and started my second draft and threw that away. It wasn't until about the 20th draft that I actually had something worth keeping, and I was ready to give up on the project many years ago, but the storyline, TJ's life story, just never left me alone, and never left me alone, and never left me alone, and then the United was born.
Now, The United is, of course, book one of a four novel series. Did you know, at the onset that you were going to, continue um, it into a series, or you just, because you could have left it at book one. Did you know from the onset that it was, there's more to this?
So story that I was doing, but when I started turning the United into a novel, um, and when I started doing the different drafts for the novel, um, really became apparent that it was supposed to be a 3-part series. First part with TJ, a second part is a backstory for Arcturus Hunter, and a third part as a finale about the life of TJ's daughter. And then, as I was getting Denizens Among Us ready for publication, I just had a really strong feeling that the story was not done here. In fact, the original rough draft of Dennis Among Us, the first half was what's in the story, or what's in the book, and the second half was a what is now called Viscount of Sternboard, a Realm of the Light novella, and both stories were very underdeveloped. Both stories in that original rough draft were very condensed, and I was like, no, I need more time on these, and nope, this doesn't quite fit. Why? And Perfectly Evil was created during that drafting process, and when I finished writing the Realm of the Light book 4, Shades of Mortality, I knew it couldn't end there. So I have a fifth book as a work in progress, and um, and now it's looking like it's going to be a 5-part series with all of the short stories, novellas, and additional stories being added to it. The Within the Shadows
Mm-hmm.
anthology is backstory of a lot of the side characters. Hyrule Maker's backstories in there, Jonathan Hunter's backstories in there, a little bit about Jacob Hunter's backstory, um, Amanda Adams' life story before the United started. Um, One of the characters introduced in Denizens Among Us, and her life story before she met Arcturus and Denizens Among Us is in Within the Shadows. And so just kind of the more I wrote, the more it got developed, the larger the world became, and it's not done yet.
Okay, so um, how do you determine the stopping point? Because you've got, okay, what? started out as a short story turned novel turned 4 part is now five, now become five. So how do you determine, the end? Or do you leave it open to just keep going until?
So the end of the realm. Let me take a couple step back. My role in the realm of the light is to chronicle what happened and share it with the realm of Terra so that we can learn from their mistakes. And so obviously the end of the Realm of the Light series is going to be their Armageddon, their Millennium, their end of the world, however it's going to become. The phrase that I use is the the end of days, and I am not quite sure at this moment if it's going to happen in book 5 or if there's a book 6 that I'm not familiar with yet.
Okay. So often, like when we see a series, um, we get into a series, we see characters move in and kind of fade out from book to book as new characters, may be developed. You get new plot twists or new storylines that may be introduced. How do you maintain a consistency, with stories and character development, within a series so that readers are able to maintain that connection that they've developed from book one?
I have an Excel spreadsheet of every creature of Rye, what their name is, where they served their mortality, what their calling is in Rye, and character traits. And as I'm writing and planning and creating the next story, I will either select a character that I felt needs to be better developed and write a short story about it or a novella about that character, or find ways to include them in the next book. And that's out that Excel spreadsheet has helped me out a great deal and is helping out a lot with the creation and execution of book 5.
Now, with any great story, the setting plays a key role in kind of telling and moving the story forward and supporting the characters. So, what's unique about this particular setting in book one?
Well, first of all, the Rai Saga overall is my use of angels and demons. My angels and demons are called creatures of Rai. After we die, we enter the realm of Rai as creatures of Rai, and are assigned a clan or a purpose. And each clan has its own animal manifestation. So at the very beginning of the United, as we talked about before, we were introduced to Jacob Hunter. We were introduced to Jacob Hunter as the Manadone, of course, but he's a member of the Wolf Clan, so he can shift at any point from human to wolf form. A little bit later, introduced to Kestrel, who is a member of the Kestrel clan, and she can shift from human to Kestrel at any given point. And just that interplay of angels and demons and how they influence what happens on Earth, and then specific to the settings, the landscape of Cave Spring, a community that JC and then TJ grow up in. That's all based on the small town that I grew up in northern Utah. Cave Spring was originally inspired by this little place in Logan Canyon called Rick's Spring that we used to frequent that I used to frequent as children, and a lot of the cultural dynamics, a lot of the relationships that happen um, with with JC and then with TJ and their families are things that either I observed or thought should have happened with people in my childhood neighborhood.
So, do you feel that you've kind of found your niche in fantasy, or are there other genres that you're interested in giving your voice to?
So as you mentioned before, I have two during the introduction. I mean, I have two. I think two science fiction novels or short stories, and I intend to revisit both of those worlds with follow up novels at some point. Um, and that was a lot of fun to work in those. The dystopian story, I am or becoming Captain Ture, is an idea is a post-apocalyptic dystopian working around for a long time. I am a trained anthropologist with a emphasis in archaeology, and the idea for Captain Ray came about way back when I was in college. One to interpret our physical remains of our people in the future, and so the world. So I'm certainly not done exploring the post-apocalyptic dystopian world. But I think where I've really found that I really enjoy is high fantasy. Right now, the Dragon's Deceit is the Dragon's Deceit series is my current my main work in progress. And um, all other sorts of magical, mythological creatures, and I have a lot of fun doing that. So I'm not sure I have found one particular
Hmm.
voice that I'm going to stick with. Um, I certainly have found that I do best with speculative fiction overall. But outside of that, I've got projects and ideas and thoughts and dreams that excite me with all sorts of genres, and I just need time, energy, and the mental healing to be able to write them all out.
Well, we're looking forward, those who are currently reading, like myself, the series, and those who will pick it up as a result. Hopefully, more people will pick it up as a result of replaying or watching this live um, interview. Um, that they'll pick up your series and fall in love with not just the stories, but the characters and your writing overall. So um, thank you for kind of um, sharing that with us, so we can expect some different things coming from you, whether it's fantasy, whether it's sci-fi, or something even in a different kind of breakdown of fantasy. So thanks for highlighting that for us. So, what is something that you hope that readers will take away, um, not only from the United, because once you read book one, of course you're going to pick up and read book two and book three and book four, because you want to see what happens in the series. So what's one or two things that you hope that readers will take away from the book one or the series overall?
So when I was looking through the questions that we were going to discuss, that is pretty much the first time I ever even um, thought of what readers way in that type of term. Before then, I was always I've always been more concerned about honestly, truthfully retelling the um, the past history of the realm of the light. um, and keeping my realm my realm of the light friends happy with me, so they continue to answer questions when I interview them about the next book. Um, one of the um, one of the characters with the most amount of personality from that series is, of course, Amanda Adams, and she refuses to answer any questions if I misrepresent her in any of my current drafts of any of the stories that include that is. But as I was thinking about your question for influences on readers, I still haven't had really anything just up for this, that, or the other.
Mhm.
Mostly, I just want to create a story that inspires, helps people with, I don't know.
Well, you told us, I mean, you told their audience about um, kind of your journey as
Oh,
an author, because you didn't start out that way, with this innate desire that you wanted to be a writer. It was just an assignment, school assignments, from fifth grade, from 10th grade, and you're writing, you're doing your homework for a grade, and you're not thinking that, okay, this is something, I want to do. But here you are, you're a published, author, with not just one novel to your name, but a host of works from, you know, across, sci-fi and fantasy, but from, short stories to, novellas. So, what is something that you could, a word of wisdom, a word of encouragement that you could share with maybe a new or aspiring author, kind of given your own experience?
to read, and to read a lot, and to read everything. I learned a great deal from the nonfiction books that I read about how to read. The most influential to me, of course, was, and I hear lots of people reference Stephen King's On Writing, but for me, it was the most influential nonfiction book I read about how to write a novel. And but I learned more about character development, world building, fantasy worlds overall, and how to create personalities, characters, and settings last through 15, 16 books. And talking big, thick, old, heavy books from Wheel of Time and reading Robert Jordan. I learned I I learned a great deal. I'm not, I would never consider myself a fan of Robert Jordan, but I admire him. I think he did a fantastic job at creating a very solid world, and I think Brandon Sanderson did a fantastic job of continuing that world and continuing that voice. And I learned a great deal from the Wheel of. I learned a lot from the Wheel of Time, and that was a really pivotal time for me on how to read other authors' books. As
Mhm.
I'll be honest, as I said, I'm not a fan of Robert Jordan. I did not like the plot. I did not like the characters. I did not enjoy the book. You can ask my wife; she can attest to how much I complained about how bored I was, until I changed my mind. When I changed my mind and said, "Well, rather than rather than criticize how much I dislike this, why don't I try to read this to see why is a New York Times best-selling series. Let me see what Jordan does to make this one of the best-selling fantasy series of all time. And it made a world of work that I've read ever since.
So, what is something that thank you for that, nugget, kind of a reminder. This is National Reading Month. So not only this month should you be reading, but hopefully you're creating time and making time to read, whether fiction, nonfiction, you know, works in the areas of your interests, works that are in the area of your field of work, but that you're taking the time to read. So, what is something that you, as an author, you've learned about yourself through this, kind of process of writing and publishing?
That I'm stubborn. I stick with a story until I have it. Until I have it. I stick with reading a series until it's over. um, um, in setting goals and setting goals with specific timelines really gets me motivated on working on projects. And it's helped in more than just writing. Anytime I have something going on, anytime I have a larger project going on and I do not put a timetable to it, I find that I am one of the world's best procrastinators. And when I put a timeline on it, I find that I still am one of the world's best procrastinators. I just have execution right like 2 seconds before the deadline.
So, for those who are watching live and those who will catch us by replay, let's tell our viewers how they can get the book and how they can connect with you on social media.
As I mentioned at the very beginning, I am I'm still recovering from my most recent concussion. I'm not entirely certain why this time and not past. I have a history of severe concussions, and so I'm limiting. One of the things my doctor wants me to do is to limit the amount of time that I spend on screens,
Gotcha.
and so I've limited back all of my screen time to basically updating my website every so often. And my website, of course, is connected to my Twitter account, to my Facebook account, and to every other thing that WordPress connects to. And so following WordPress right now, jqmserve.wordpress is the best way to figure out to follow me. And to see what's coming out currently. And then searching James Meservy on Amazon, I have just everything there.
Awesome. So thank you. Thank you, James Meservy, for spending time with us this afternoon, and we wish you continued success with the United, the Realm of Life book series. Just not just book one, but all of the full series and all of the wonderful projects that you've got coming down the pike. So for our PharSide viewers, PharSide Book Club members, and all those book clubbers out there and readers out there, make sure you're staying tuned to the PharSide Co-Ed Book Club Facebook page for more author interviews and posts as we celebrate National Reading Month during the month of March. And guess what today is? National Grammar Day. All right. So if you're working on any papers or any drafts or any blog post, check your grammar. Grammarly is your friend. Grammarly is your friend. Pro Writing Aid is your friend. There are a lot of tools out there. Will be a great friend to you on this National Grammar Day. And so all this month we're celebrating National Reading Month. So read a book. Pick up book one, The United, The Realm of Life book series by James Meservy. Pick up some of his other titles. Guess what? Next week is National Ebook Month. All right, ebook week. So, National Ebook Reading Week. So, if you don't get the hard copy, you can pick up the ebook, okay? So, there's no excuses here. No excuses here. Next week is ebook week, and as well as borrowing return week. So, if you've got books overdue at your local library, please return them. Your librarian will love you and speak well of you. So return those books on next week. So as we say here on the far side, until next time, many roots, many voices are part of the infinite story. So plant your seed. And again, thank you, James, for spending this afternoon with us.